Hello, aviation operations students. Welcome to week 7. A few things for this week. There will be office hours from 4:30 to 5:30 on Thursday, though I will stay as long as there are questions. Our first exam will be on Friday, and so the homework that will be provided on day 1 will be the study guide for that. So if it prompts any questions, come to the office hours, or if you can't attend them, you can email me or you can set up a time to meet me other than that. If for some reason you are not available on Friday to take the exam, please contact me before Friday, that is by midnight on Thursday, to let me know when I can arrange an alternate time for you to take the exam. So now let's launch into management. So we are going to look into organization and administration of a business. There will be 3 brief lectures for this section. All for day 1. There will be a career video for day 2 since you're studying for your exam. So the big thing is we talked about the importance in a business of having goals and objectives. You have to decide what they are. You have to decide how you're going to get there and what resources you're going to need, both financial, personnel, materials, in order to reach those goals and objectives. And think about the fact that if you are not setting and tracking goals, how can you measure them? So we'll be talking later about dashboards and checklists, ways for us to make sure we're measuring what's happening in our business and that either it's going well or that we are revising our plan, either objectives because they weren't realistic, or maybe we need to put some more resources in to make this happen. So you're strongly encouraged to have a written plan for arranging resources to meet your planned objectives. If you have more than one person or provide more than one service, you need to organize. And that can also be true even if it is only one person and one service. If you are, for example, going 2 airplanes and providing maintenance on them, you need to have a schedule. You need to make sure you have the right resources in place to fix their aircraft wherever it is. So even if it's just one person, it's probably good to have a written plan, but definitely if there's more than one person, a plan is a good way to share the viewpoint and share the objectives. You also should have a firm estimate of the resources required, an inventory of the resources on hand, and a plan to get more. So how do you know when you're about to run out? Does someone tell you when there's only 3 left? Do they tell you when they run out at all? Or is it only when you go to sell one to a customer and you don't have it that you find out that you've run out of whatever the product is? How long does it take for more to arrive? Some objects can take 6 to 8 weeks to arrive. So you need to think, how much do I need for 6 to 8 weeks? And make sure you order that much in advance so that you don't run out. How much do you need to order at any time? There's a big emphasis now on just in time ordering what you need, and things like Amazon Prime allow you to do that. You order it and it's there in a day or 2. But there's other things to consider. Is it on sale or discounted right now? I might want to buy extra while it's at a lower price. Is there a bulk discount, and what is the limit? So if the bulk price doesn't sit in until you buy 200 or more and you only sell a month, it may not be worth it. But if the bulk limit is 25 or more and you sell 20 a month, that might be worth considering. You buy it at the bulk price and it may turn out that there's a month that you don't have to buy because you've got enough left over. So you could benefit in multiple ways. And then the roles that you have as a manager. And if you are running a business, you are a manager. You are managing yourself, you are managing the business, and you're managing the employees and or customers. So there are multiple roles, but they are divided into 3 main categories: interpersonal, leading, building relationships, acting as a liaison, and networking. And again, this is where you are building connections between people in and outside of the business, and also making sure you get information out. Informational, this is where you listen, you gather information, you analyze and summarize. You may check with other people in the business, with clients, with other people in the field to see if the information you have seems to be correct, and then communicate what you have learned. Decisional, do you have to make all the decisions? And sometimes in a very small business with 1 or 2 additional employees in lower positions, you may be making all the decisions. But if you want to grow the capacity of your staff, you want to grow your company, a smart thing to do is to move some of those smaller decisions down the ladder. Make sure that you put policies around it so that they know what's importance there is to making those decisions, and empower the employees. That allows you to focus on the more strategic matters of the business. It makes better use of your time. You're not putting out fires all the time, and helps to grow your staff so that eventually, as your company grows, you have some other people who can step into leadership positions, or you know that it's not going to be a fit for them. Planning. You need to develop your strategies, establish your goals and objectives. And strategic planning often looks at a 2, a 3, or a 5-year window, but it can be longer. What do you want your company to be when it grows up? Some people set that goal out at 25 years or even a not specific time, saying, this is where I want to end up. Then you have to look at where you are now, where you want to go, and what is the path. And then a really good step at that point is a strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats analysis. So in your strengths, what are the things that you and your team are really good at? Weaknesses. What are areas that are not your strength? You might need help in them. If managing cash flow in your financials is not good, you may want to hire an outside accountant, or your next employee might be an accountant to do the financial management. Opportunities. What are things that you can do and can do really well, and maybe you can expand with that? Are there opportunities in the community for things that aren't being filled, those gaps that you identify? And how could your business model match up with that? And threats. What are the issues? New technologies, the market, economy in this example. It could be that the airport is doing a real push for green and you don't have the money to move into that direction. What are you going to do? Or you see that 5 years out, they're requiring all aircraft to have some kind of a retrofit. Are you budgeting that in so you have the money at the time? Are you going to be able to do that? So make sure you're looking at those things. Again, what are the strengths and weaknesses of your business model of your team? What are opportunities for growth? And what are threats to your company? So here's an example of a brewery analysis. So they have their years of experience, their established brand, and they have stable financial performance, which probably helps them run the company and also potentially puts them in a good position to ask for funding. They have a very limited clientele, and trying to reach out to other demographics is an issue. Dependence on past practices. They do a good job of what they do, but they don't know how to move forward. They've grown the business to this point, but it's not moving anywhere, and they have a weak social media presence. So opportunities, a brand design that can reach out to other people. Learn more about craft beer and their competitors, and sometimes it can be a good thing. We see that in the Bozeman community is the craft beer breweries actually work with each other and share equipment, because it's created this culture, this climate that brings people out to the different breweries, and therefore by supporting others, they're actually growing that culture. They want to maintain their quality, but provide more different kinds of beer. And look into a partnership with startup brands. Are there some that are out there that are just starting up that potentially they could work with that might satisfy some of these requirements while helping build another business? Threats, other small businesses with craft beers, and changing consumer preferences. So how do they tie all this together to come up with a plan to work forward effectively? Once you have this piece, and your marketing plan is a piece of this to understand some of these things, you can think about what you need to do to grow your business. So in organizing, there's 3 basic levels of management. Again, a business starting out may not. It may have one manager or the owner and one level of people below them that work. But as a company grows, you have your workers, you have your first line managers. They are the supervisors. They could be a team lead or a department lead or a shift lead. Then you have your middle managers, and those are the ones that supervise those team leads, department leads. And then you have your top managers, your C-suite, and that is your CEO, your COO, your CFO, the C-suite of officers, that the chief executive, the chief financial officer, the chief operations officer. There's sometimes others as well, but usually those 3 are what you see. If you have more than a CEO, you have a chief operations and a chief financial officer, or it may depend on what the business is focusing in on that time, and it may only have one of those. Leading. One of the key things you need to do as a manager is to lead, to influence and motivate people. So your motivational and leadership styles are going to be important, and they need to match up with the way that you are running your business. And also the importance of modeling. You need to be able to show people how to do things. You need to be able to show people how to behave. A parent who says, do as I say, not as I do, is not being an effective leader in their family. And then controlling. This is an area that often is very difficult for new businesses to keep activities on track towards the goals, establish policies and systems that support employees. Another way to look at this is servant leadership. You are a servant supporting the people who work for you so that they can do what they need to make your customers happy. You need to establish your standards, your metrics for your goals. You need to make sure that you don't necessarily have to personally measure performance, but you need to make sure it is being measured. You need to compare it to standards, compare it to your goals. Adjust as needed. You may need to revise the goals. Given the economy right now, things might not move as fast. Or are there other opportunities and you need to put more resources into it? Do you need to update your policies and procedures because they're not a match? The primary focus is often financial because finances often control how much staff you have, what kind of resources and how fast you're able to get them. So that person is often called a controller or a comptroller. You are controlling in your business, you're measuring the performance, you're measuring the metrics, you're measuring the resources, both what you have now and what you're going to need to meet those goals. So in the financial area, it is very important to have current, accurate financial statements, and we will look at those next week. Do you know how much money you have? Do you know how much money you owe? Do you know how much money you need to get to the next step? It's very helpful to regularly compare present financial status with your past record. In the first year, that may not be possible because you may be looking at the ups and downs as a business flows annually. But once you get it up there, looking at your year-to-date compared to the last year-to-date can give you an idea of whether things are going better, if they're not, if you're going to need to make adjustments. And then there's a tool we use to project our financial needs into the future, the cash flow. That is how much we expect to have to spend, how much are we going to have to spend to get the results that we need, your cash flow. Personnel is also a major area, and we'll be spending a week on that on human resources. You should always have a current list of your present personnel, indicating their qualifications, skills, history, and performance. You should be hopefully providing training and development to help them move up and someday be in that second tier and have people working for them. And you should have an employee handbook or a book of operating procedures that covers the policies that are required by law if you have employees, and also the policies and practices that you want to see to keep your business moving the way that you want it to. Physical assets. An accurate listing of buildings, equipment, vehicles, aircraft, and real estate. What do you have? What are you leasing? How much time do you have on the rent before it might come up? It should include the value, the physical state, any needed improvements, especially if you have aircraft or vehicles. You should be putting money away for maintenance so that when you do that required maintenance and some unscheduled maintenance, that you have money set aside for that. You need to look at the costs and their operational capabilities. How many hours do you have left on that engine before it needs to be redone? So keeping track of that maintenance, making sure you're setting the money aside to be able to do the maintenance quickly when it happens is something that's important. Or if you're going to go on vacation, maybe you can have that, even though you still have a little time left, maybe you have it done then and then you don't miss out on any opportunities when you come back. That's one of the models that Summit Aviation uses, is that they have the money there. So whenever maintenance is required, that goes out and gets that maintenance right away so that the downtime is as limited as possible. Again, in the end, management means focusing on all these areas. You have to balance your money, your plans, your management style, your staff, your actual assets, to keep them all hopefully moving in the right direction. So it's good if you have a common mission. At a particular time, you might focus on one or another. You know you have enough resources, but now you need to get those resources in the field faster. How do you do that to meet your goals? And you need to grow staff abilities. So you may have them prioritize. So maybe one staff person does an inventory at the end of the day. Another staff person looks at that inventory and does ordering. Another person is the one who's collecting all the financial information to turn over to the accountant. You have to watch everything. That's your job as a manager. You can't just say, oh, I'm only going to worry about this or that. But you can ask staff to only worry about this or worry about that, and then provide you the information you need so that you have that big picture. So that is the end of the first mini lecture on management, talking about organization and administration of a business. Next up, we'll be talking about business structures, which you probably are talking about in one of your other classes as well. And that should be the end of the first lecture. Again, the second lecture will be on business structures, and the third one will be on management information systems.